on this with our foreign editor, Angela Diffley, who's with me in the studio. And Angela, there have been protests before about pensions. So what do you think is different this time around?
This is being billed by the unions and probably feared by the government as one of those big epic moments in French street action. We've seen three big occasions. Everybody will remember May 68, when de Gaulle was forced to dissolve Parliament and to hold a referendum. On two other occasions, in December of 95 and then again in 2006 under Jacques Chirac, key government reforms, both times, or certainly in 95, including pension reform, the government had to back down. So the unions, as you say, 8 unions united on this, they are hoping that a big show of force will force the government to back down. Polls suggest that about 61% of the public do not favour the pension reforms being proposed. That said, about 81% say that something needs to change in the French pension system. The system in France is that current workers pay for retirees. So with a diminishing number of young people and a growing number of older people, the system is under huge strain and something needs to be done. It's about the third lowest retirement age in France in the OECD. So something needs to be done. Macron and his Prime Minister, Elisabeth Borne, opted not to do two of the other options. One might have been to raise taxes or to cut pensions. In this reform, in fact, pensions will be raised slightly, but of course, the age at which someone is eligible for a public pension, a national pension, will be 64 and not 62. So that's a key element. Macron tried to do this before, and he tried something much more ambitious. The first time around, he hoped to do something with these 42 special systems. Particular work sectors in France have their own retirement systems, which are quite different to the general retirement system, sometimes fairly generous, sometimes based on difficult working conditions which no longer really apply. They're largely untouched. New hires, new people coming into those sectors will be bound by this reform, it is, if it gets through Parliament. But for those already in those sectors, nothing will change.
It sounds like, though, for the president himself, quite a lot is at stake here.
Yeah, this is really one of those issues about who governs France. Emmanuel Macron made quite clear in the election that he intended to try to push through these pension reforms. He is likely to get them through Parliament with the help of the mainstream right. He tried to overhaul the system before, and there were 2 months of massive transport strikes. In the end, with COVID, he shelved the first attempt at reform. But he knows that much of his time in office was derailed by COVID. He is very keen to pass this very, very significant reform. It could raise about 17.7 billion euros. The state coffers need about 14 billion euros for this retirement income in order to pay out. So something has to be done. We will see what today's turnout is like. The government will be watching very, very closely. And thereafter, what sort of momentum there is. It should be said that there is perhaps a significant number of people, perhaps a silent majority, we don't yet know, many of those people in the private sector who feel they will have to retire later and they feel the public sector are often noisy and unrepresentative. We'll see how this plays out.
We will indeed. Angela Diffley, thanks very much.